You're listening to the Bust-Proof Business Podcast, taking your business to the next level by taking you out of it. With our experience and proven results, we'll help you find the success that many crave, but only we can help you achieve. It's time to get started with your host, Greg Murphy.
Hey guys, it's Greg Murphy here. Thank you for listening to the Bust-Proof Business Podcast. Today I talk with my good friend Anitra Jump. Her and her husband Nick have been friends of our family for a while now. They really were the first people that in the book business that we befriended. We met them at a library sale down in Cincinnati years ago, and we just hit it off really quick, and we've all been friends since then. And I always call Anitra kind of the alpha mom. She has 5 kids plus her husband Nick to deal with. She's an amazing mom, an amazing friend. And honestly, without her, we would have had a much harder time with Bust-Proof Live. She really was instrumental in making sure that it ran as well as it did. We really appreciate her. Yeah, she's really great. So let's just get right into it. My interview with Anitra Jump. Today I'm speaking with Anitra Jump. So Anitra, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good. How are you, Greg?
Really, really good. We it's about 5:30 in the morning. Neither of us could sleep last night.
Nope.
And last night we went to dinner with Dana, my wife Dana, and my daughter Sydney. And Sid basically almost murdered herself.
Face planted.
Yeah. And I think the people thought we were gonna sue them or whatever. They gave us free ice cream.
Yes.
To stave off the lawsuit.
That Sydney loved the ice cream.
She was a big fan of the ice cream. Yeah, yes. She was. So, Anitra, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your husband's business, how you got into books, and just tell us your story.
So, my husband, Nick, actually is the mastermind behind our business, which is Book Frog. But I got my start with books when I was working for Thompson Learning, which is now Cengage. And I was actually started out in the warehouse and then moved to customer service, and then was promoted to sales rep in the K through 12 division. So,
and Cengage is a textbook publisher.
Yes, they're a textbook publisher. In the K through 12 market, they're really known for their math books, and then on the college end, they have anything and everything you can think of, especially cosmetology, like Daymar is a big one. Chilton manuals come through there. Stewart Calculus. We're
getting really nerdy already. We're getting way
we're getting way
nerdy. We're getting way nerdy real quick.
Oh yeah.
So Cengage is so you started working for Cengage.
Started working for Cengage in the warehouse, which was fun. So I know how to pack books in a box really well. And then customer service.
Okay.
And then on up to sales.
So what kind of customer service is there? Like you're dealing with institutions? You're not dealing with like a lady that buys a textbook and then calls up saying, really?
Sometimes, yeah. And it was funny, especially the cosmetology books, because the students would call and say, I need that purple book. And they would expect you to know what it was.
That's insane. The purple book.
The purple book with the lady on the front. And you just knew. You just knew after a while.
I mean, for real, and you just knew the answer?
Yeah. Because each different division had their own phone number. So they would try to route them the right place.
And then you would just sell books over the phone one at a time?
Sometimes, yeah, for the students. But mostly it was, the colleges would call, the schools would call. Although my most embarrassing story is you know who O'Reilly's is, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, let's explain it because maybe our listeners don't.
So O'Reilly's is an auto parts store. I had never seen one before in Kentucky. Like, I don't think they'd ever come here yet. So they call the line and I answer it and say that they need to order these manuals. And I'm like, okay, so what's the name of your company? They're like, O'Reilly's. And I couldn't find them. I was like, are you guys like a business or something? And the guy's like, yeah, but I never heard of them. So Nick still makes fun of me because O'Reilly's is a huge company. And I was like, I don't know who you guys are.
Yeah, poor O'Reilly's.
Poor O'Reilly's.
Okay, so you worked for Cengage.
Yep.
And you did customer service, and what happened next?
And then Nick kind of encouraged me to go into sales. I don't like sales, but I'm good at it. So he, convinced me to try it out. So I went, I was actually inside sales for part of Colorado, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, I think.
Colorado, New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
That seems like random that they added Colorado to the...
Yeah. But it's inside sales.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true.
It was fun because you would call the schools and try to solicit sales. So if a school district was in need of, it was their adoption year and they needed math books, you would send a bunch of copies of the math book out to that school district to distribute to the teachers, and they would look at all the different publishers and decide which book they wanted to go with.
And was that effective?
It was. Yeah, it was really effective.
And what happened to those books after that?
I don't know.
Okay. So let's move on then. So now you and Nick, how long have you guys known each other?
We've known each other since we were in the 4th grade.
And you guys started dating when?
We didn't start dating till actually he came to work at Thompson. So I had already worked in the warehouse and moved to customer service. And I walked in one day and he was there too. So he came to work there after I did. But that's when we started dating. And
so you guys, basically explain what it is that you guys do that's different than what we do. I mean, we know Brian, my partner Brian, he sends people to buy books one at a time.
Yeah.
We have the bulk model where we buy the tractor trailer loads of books to sell here.
Yeah.
And you guys do something that's quite a bit different than that.
Yeah. So a lot of what we do is relationship based, but we specialize in textbooks. Since Nick and I both worked for a publisher, we kind of understand the market a little more deeply than most people would. So Nick will go to a college and talk to professors or students or on-campus or off-campus bookstores to get the stock that they don't need anymore.
And so he has to travel a lot, right? So he's going around the country.
Yeah.
And over time, I mean, Nick is great at doing this, but Nick builds these relationships with professors and groups.
Yeah.
And to make it easier for him to buy books on a regular basis. They'll call him back, or he'll reach out to him a couple times a year or whatever.
Yeah. And he's really good at it. I mean, he tries very hard to make sure he is he's providing a service to them. It's not just a business transaction. It's also really a friendship. So he will, befriend the professors and, continue to check on them and see if, they have books they need to get rid of or if they know anybody else that does. So a lot of it is also referral based too.
And he pays a good chunk of change. I always tease him for the amount of money but it works for you guys. But
yeah,
he's spending pretty top dollar for some of these books sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it in the bulk business, it's about how much can you get for how little.
Yeah.
And that's a great business model. But also there's the business model of fewer books for more money.
And that really is where my assumption is that there's more competition for those types of books than there are for my books. The stuff that I get is when everybody else in the industry is through.
Yeah.
And everything that's left over eventually comes to us.
There can be, but I think, a big thing that works in our benefit is the fact that a lot of it's based on relationships. You
Right.
have to, the professor has to be comfortable enough for you to come in there, and they need to know that if he walks into a bookstore, he's not going to take any books or steal any books,
Yeah.
So, and plus there's a market standard, there's an industry standard for how much books are worth any given cycle.
Now, we had at Wright State when I was a graduate assistant at Wright State a few years ago, and there was actually an incident where someone had like Mission Impossible style. I don't even know if I told you this story before, but Mission Impossible style. They went through the ceiling to get into the professor's offices to steal the books.
Oh my gosh.
And
that's crazy.
And they would know which books to take. Like they wouldn't take everything.
Yeah.
They would either scan or they knew which ones to steal.
Yeah.
And then they would, and like somebody burglarized the whole like business department
Yeah.
One night.
Yeah, well, that just happened in where we live not too long ago. Someone hit a few of the big state institutions, the state universities, stealing books. And so, our way of doing business isn't for everybody. It's not for the faint of heart, but you really have to have a lot of integrity and relationship building and rapport to be able to walk into a professor's office and them to let you touch their bookcases, and to be in their space, because professors' offices aren't big.
And a lot of them aren't very well maintained too.
That's true. They can be
pretty
cluttered.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But I like it. I like the fact that, for the longest time, it was just, Nick and I, and with 5 kids, for 2 people to be able to run the type of business we do with the revenue that we have, it's pretty amazing for 2 people to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's 5 kids is no joke. I can barely handle my one child sometimes. It is an interesting model. So you guys are the average selling. Do you mind talking about your average sales price?
No, not at all.
Because our average is between $8 and $10.
Yeah,
is what we sell. Our average book sells for.
Well, I think ours depends. It depends a lot on what time of year it is, because obviously there is a season for textbooks. I think we normally run a little under $30.
And that's relatively standard for non-media categories of sellers on Amazon. Yeah. Like a higher price point like that. But for booksellers, $30 is pretty, that's very high.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, you have to keep in mind that, just coming out of textbook season, your average selling price can be upwards of $60 because you're selling.
Well, your average selling price can be upwards of $60. Ours might hit 12 some days, if we're lucky.
You throw a party.
Yeah,
Yay!
yeah. So, but yeah, we're really nerding out on textbooks, and I think we might be leaving a few people behind, but that's okay.
Love it though.
Yeah, I think books are amazing. I think it's a great category. It's something that if you're willing to do it the way that you guys do, it's all about relationships.
Yes.
And so you're not competing the same way that people are going to library sales or thrift stores.
Right.
Because you're building relationships and getting books that might, if you didn't buy them, they might sit on that professor's shelf for another 10 years.
Right.
Or get thrown into the recycling bin.
Yeah. But I think even though we're building relationships with professors, the same model can carry over into any industry and anybody who buys books, because, you can get in really good with a certain Goodwill. You can get in really well with a certain employee at a thrift store or even at a library sale. And if you build that relationship over time, and a real relationship with these people, you get benefits no one else does, just because you're a nice person and you genuinely like them.
And Nick, I mean, that's the thing, is Nick is one of the nicest guys I know. And he told me a story about how there are these used bookstores that he can go to sometimes, and he can get pricing that I've never heard of. Yeah. And I if I didn't know Nick, I would call him a liar. Yeah. If it was just a guy coming off the street, like there's no way. But it's just because of relationship building over time. And to speak to that one, I'm very lucky because he's a great guy. But add to that we had built that business model where we had, these particular used bookstores we'd go to, and we got benefits no one else did. Building relationships is really important, especially in what we do, because for us to get books, normally it's just I send an email and say, hey, and honestly, there's some places where we buy books that they say, okay, these are the loads that you're supposed to pick up this week. And we say, okay. And that's literally it. They send us where to go, the release number, and they bill us, and then we pay them, net 30. And I mean, hopefully that's going to be even larger over time. But honestly, I think that really we spend probably less than an hour a week company-wide sourcing.
That's awesome, because we spend way more time than that. But then again, once you have a source, then how do you get more out of that source? And you really get more out of that source by asking for things that they might have that they're not currently giving you, and when you build that relationship, you're the first person they think of when they start to get more product that they can source to you.
Yeah. And the big deal is just to do what you say you're going to do. That's it.
That's true.
That puts you way ahead of the pack.
Yeah.
So it's like you pay your bills, you do what you say you're going to do, you be there when you say you're going to be there. And that's way more than half the battle.
Yeah. You got to be dependable. That's for sure.
And, in our industry, the way it works is they'll say, hey, Greg, I need you to pick this load up tomorrow. And we have to have the infrastructure in place where we can make a phone call. And we have a freight company that is able to, on a dime, say, yeah, I'll be there in 2 hours.
Yeah.
And we just have to have that infrastructure in place.
Yeah. And I'm sure even, your freight company that you picked them because they were good people, they delivered the product that you needed, but also you knew they were going to represent you well to the source that you had.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And the big thing is when they called me, it's R&L Freight is who we use.
Oh, yeah.
And when they called me, the guy just showed up and said, hey, I was wondering if you have 10 minutes. I'm like, oh, sure. So we got to talking, and I said, listen, here's the thing is that I need for this, I need to be able to call you or send you an email and say, hey, this needs to be picked up here. And then it happens. I can't have all the back and forth. I don't need a quote.
Right.
If it's around $1,000, I'm good.
Right.
Just you have to do it. That's all.
Well,
and they can. It's amazing.
Well, even for the listeners you have that have sourcers, people who are going out and scanning for them and sending stuff in. You want people who know how to deal with the public, because obviously if you have someone scanning for you, they're going to be in a thrift store or they're going to be at a library sale or something like that. So you want someone that's going to represent your company well, but also someone that is going to be kind to everyone else around them, because they're going to get more product if they're kind, and they're going to represent you well. And that means more people are going to come your way because, well, your employees are nice.
Yeah, and that's especially true for, we're doing a brick and mortar retail store now.
Right.
And we say, look, guys, we're going to be the Chick-fil-A of bookstores. Like, we're just going to be the nicest folks we can be.
Yes.
And that's more important than anything else. What frustrates me to no end at a store, food or whatever. I don't go shopping ever, but just in general, you go someplace and the people, like, there's a dude over here, he's not doing anything that you can tell.
Yeah.
Like you can't tell that he's doing anything. There's one lady here and there's a line.
Right.
And even though what he's probably doing is important.
Yeah.
But to me, at least, it seems like that people, they just don't care.
Right.
What I tell our staff is I say, listen, there's nothing more. I don't ever want to see a line.
Right.
No matter what it is that you're doing, we have 2 registers. Unless both registers are full and we're getting counts for the books from other people, there should never be a line.
Right.
And obviously we fail at that sometimes, but at least I would hope that people aren't feeling when they come into the store like, there's people that just aren't helpful.
Right.
And we get pretty good reviews. And the reason why is not because of me, it's because my family cares about me. And, and it's mostly a family business. Right. I think I'm awful at hiring. I'm awful at managing. So we're just lucky that we have like this core group of family that's willing to help us.
Well, you were talking about reviews being reviewed well, at least, here with your bookstore. But for those people who sell on Amazon, I know we saw a steep decline when we went to FBA. In reviews, just that many don't come in when you do FBA, it seems. At least that's been our experience. So every review we get is worth so much more because we get fewer. And I had to learn very early on, and I learned a lot of this through being in customer service with Thompson, is that you have to be nice to people even if they aren't nice to you. And there'll be plenty of times when someone will lie about a textbook and say it was used when it was new or it had writing in it when I know it didn't. And you really have to handle that in such a way that at the end of it, you feel good about what you did And even if you know the person is lying, that they still come away feeling like they got the better end of the deal. There have been plenty of times people have left a negative review, and I've apologized for something I didn't even do and refunded the book, and they will actually remove their feedback.
Yeah. We don't do that. We give them the money back, but I don't we don't. First off, it like psychically wounds me to go through customer service emails. We're here in my office. Let's just do it right now. So right now I have 21 buyer messages.
Are you serious?
From the last 24 hours.
Oh.
Okay. So, I'm just going to open up a couple of ones randomly. I have not received the item. Please refund me. That's not that mean.
Oh, yeah, that's not bad.
So here's what's annoying to me is when the Amazon reps open up A to Z claims.
Yeah.
That's annoying to me. So we have one of those.
I haven't had one of those in forever, knock on wood.
Oh, we get, because of our volume.
Right. Yeah.
30,000 units a month. Sorry to say the audiobook is missing disc 1.
Ooh.
That's no good. So, but yeah, doesn't look like anything particularly rude today. But we have 20, but it hurts. Like for me, I can't handle that kind of criticism. I'm just as a human. And so the negative stuff, I can't, it just can ruin my whole day.
It can.
So what I do is, and my sister Krista handles all the customer service. When she was on maternity leave, I had to do it.
Oh no.
And it just bummed me out. Like all the time, it just bummed me out because it was just negative, and it wasn't personal. I mean, they don't know who we are. We're just people behind the interwebs.
Yeah.
For them, but it was a bummer, and you're like the stuff that it's not okay. We messed up, whatever, but you're scamming me or you're stealing my money.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, it's $8. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
We screwed up.
And it's the people that buy the least expensive books who always complain the most.
All the time. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that drives me crazy because I'm like, you're leaving negative feedback. You've completely tanked my, I've went from 100% feedback all the way down to 92 or something with one horrible rating and over a $6, $8 book. I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. So I guess that's why I work so hard to try to get it removed and be nice to the people and let them know, especially in our instance, there's just 2 of us and we do Amazon full time. It's our source of income. And so when somebody decides to leave negative feedback, that affects you as a seller. And so, Amazon can shut you down for any reason they want to. So you really need to make sure that you're being kind to people as much as you can be.
There's no doubt about that. For us, though, we go between 94 and 95% positive feedback. Mm-hmm. At our scale. I don't think there's really, unless we move to closer to 100% fulfillment by Amazon, I'm not sure that we could do much better than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when someone leaves a negative feedback, if we get it removed, it doesn't matter. It's not going to change anything.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just what the numbers really are. When you have such a low, because if you're, let's say you're selling 1,000 units a month and you might get feedback on 5% of your orders.
Right.
It doesn't take much to move the bar, but we see long-term averages where this is basically what it is. It's about 19 out of 20 people are going to be happy and when they're leaving feedback.
Yeah.
And I mean, dealing with that, it could be a full-time job. Maybe we should, but we just don't.
Well, you don't have to unless, it really starts to affect your business. But most of our customer service emails really come in during textbook season. That's our biggest season of the year. And so you're dealing with people who have bought $100, $200 book, and so you have to put yourself in their shoes. But that's why I like, building these relationships with professors is the fact that, and even bookstores and students is, you're getting a good product, you're getting something that you don't mind to put back out there. So where you might be missing a CD, often we don't run into that because we're getting them straight, we're getting them
Right.
new. We're getting them from a professor. So I like that I don't have to check every single book all day long.
That's true.
Yep.
That's definitely true. Part of a big chunk of our cost definitely is labor. That's 100% true. Let's stop nerding out on books so heavy.
Okie dokie.
And let's talk more about masterminds in general.
Yes.
So we're actually today, this morning, we're going to be meeting with some friends of ours. They sell their own products, or they want to. It's basically a marketing mastermind, just small businesses trying to get together to learn how to do this a little bit better. And these guys are all heavy hitters. All of them are in different little niches, and they all have different ideas about how to do this right. And it's just great to have some accountability,
Right.
and just some people that understand who we are and what we do. Because in my opinion, this is really isolating. It can be. Running a business like this is really isolating. So are you guys involved in any other masterminds? Have you been before?
Not really. When we started in the business, we really were isolated. We hadn't known that many people who did it also. And that's because we did a lot of traveling. So it's hard to run into people. There's not, groups out there going, hey, we buy books, want to come be our friend, because you have the whole competition and scarcity mentality.
And it's better now because of Facebook stuff. But when we met at a book sale.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. And I still laugh about that. The fact that, you sometimes you get afraid to approach people, but the fact that we did, I mean, look how far it's come, from both of us scanning at a library sale to what it is now. And the friendship and what we've learned from each other, I think, is
definitely
huge. And I know it's impacted our business positively, ever since we met you.
Yeah, us too. I mean, the thing is that you never know. All of us approach the world differently. And no matter if they're people that are just starting out or have been doing this for years, you're going to see slightly different points of view. And there's something, if you can just get one little nugget that you can twist and turn and make it something that's your own, it can have a big impact on your business. Yeah.
I mean, everybody sees things differently. And Nick and I are as different as day and night.
Yeah.
He's very numbers minded, and I'm more big idea minded, I guess. And so something that might completely make sense to him doesn't make any sense to me, and vice versa. And so when we're able to come together and talk about a problem we have or a problem we see in the business, we're able to approach it from different angles. And that's what I love about masterminds, is someone else might be doing something I never even thought of doing, or have an edge or an angle on something. And I'm able to listen to them and respect them in the way they do it, and then apply it to what I'm doing, without ever, hurting them, because they're in a totally different industry than I am. Just like, you're in bulk and we're not, but there are things that you've done with your bulk business that we've been able to implement into our business, and it's made huge differences.
And vice versa, because even though you guys know way more about each individual title that you deal with than we do. For us, it's all about volume and speed, get through as quickly as we can. But yeah, I think that I think masterminds are amazing, and I'm really looking forward to the one we do today.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
It definitely will be. So, Miss Anitra, you have 5 children.
Yes.
And Nick, which is arguably can be a 6th sometimes, I would assume.
Sometimes, okay. Yes.
So you have 5 kids and your husband, and you guys have a successful e-commerce business.
Yes.
And you ran for something.
Judge executive.
You ran for judge executive down in Kentucky. Still don't understand what that was.
Yes.
But I mean, you're involved in, local nonprofits. You guys are involved in church and all that stuff.
Yes.
So, I mean, how do you have time to do all that when I have one daughter and none of those activities? So how do you do all that stuff, and how do you prioritize? How do you set your day?
Well, first things first, I'm not great at it. And I think that's where you have to start, is you have to be easy on yourself. because you're going to overestimate what you can get done and you're not going to get it all done. So you can't beat yourself up over not getting everything done you want to do in a day. But my main priority any day is to make sure that I add value to everybody I run into. So whether it be, my children in the morning, or Nick as he's getting ready to walk out the door, or somebody I meet at the grocery store, if I can add value to somebody's life every day, then it's been a successful day.
And, Nick is also traveling. Your guys' business model necessitates him sometimes traveling for a few days in a row, right?
Yes.
So now you have the 5 kids, the husband's on the road, you got the Amazon business that's keeping everybody fed.
Right.
So, again, that's pretty incredible. And you're here with me at 6 o'clock in the morning,
right?
Recording this podcast.
Well, I think when you love people, when you just have a positive outlook, when you're excited to meet people or to spend your day doing something that you're passionate about, it's a lot easier to go on less sleep. I love my kids. And they can be a handful, but you can't help but look at your kids and when 3 of them are yelling at you to do 10 different things, sometimes you have to say, okay, well, just a minute. I have to make sure every day that I take some time to engage one-on-one with each of my kids, that I just give them my complete and total attention, even if it's only for 5 minutes. Because if I spend all of my time scattered trying to do 3 things at the same time, then it's all segmented. So I have to make sure that I take a little bit of time every day and with intention, pay attention to one kid at a time and give them my attention. And it's interesting where often I'll think, oh, I don't have enough time to do all of this. If I actually slow down and just do one thing at a time, I get so much more done.
Yeah. Multitasking is a terrible idea. It doesn't work. That's science.
Well, sometimes you have to.
Right. But in general though, you're less effective if you're trying to do a bunch of things at one time.
Right. Absolutely.
That's especially true for me. I'm incredibly ADD. I've had times where I'm on the computer. My plan is to check my email for something that I need for my business. Something catches my eye. Oh, that's pretty cool. I go to a website. And 20 minutes have passed.
Right.
And I have I'm like, how did I even get here?
Yeah. You and I are a lot alike in that. And so one thing that actually Nick helped me with a lot is setting alarms on my phone.
Okay.
So, it's really nice to set an alarm that's just like, have you spent time with the kids? Or, hey, it's time to spend 10 minutes with Avery, and so setting that alarm in a moment of clarity,
Yeah.
And then it's nice to have that reminder because, I can get off in the rabbit hole of the internet for hours. And you're like, ready to go.
I've tried to be better. I installed something called a newsfeed eradicator on Facebook on my work computers.
Yeah.
To where it doesn't show you the newsfeed. I still have to get on Facebook for the bust-proof book flipping Facebook group.
Right.
And the labs, the paid memberships site. I have to be on Facebook for that. But I don't need to be seeing all the stuff in the newsfeed.
Right.
All the latest soap opera that's the presidential election.
Oh, gosh.
Or the latest just cat video or whatever else is. I don't need that.
Right.
I don't need, no one probably needs that ever, but definitely not during the workday when we're trying to make something happen.
Right. Well, I think a lot of moms and dads out there, or even people listening to the podcast, they're trying to do so much, and I can pretty much guarantee if somebody's listening to the podcast, they're doing something else also, whether they're driving or sitting at work. And so, just taking one thing that helps me is making sure I take some time every day to just do one thing, and only one thing. I'm not doing 2 things or 3 things at the same time. And then I also, my Monday mornings are scheduled out from 9 till 12 every Monday. That's my time. And I have one thing I do. I have a group of women I meet with, and that's it. Nothing gets scheduled. No doctor's appointments, nothing.
Okay, so this group of women that you're meeting with, are they business women? Or are they just friends?
No, they're just friends, and we meet at one of their houses every Monday, and we hang out and talk. It's a group of ladies from my church, actually, but that's my time. And before, I used to feel really guilty if I took time out for myself, and I learned after a while that once I said, no, this is my time. That it's great because I look forward to it. I'm not stressed out anymore.
And it makes you better for everything else.
Yeah.
Like I do the same thing. And I know that my wife is probably listening to the podcast now, but every week I cut out from work in the middle of the day. Well, just about every week. And I go to the movies, or I go and just blow off some steam somewhere for a couple hours. Every week, at least once during the week, I'll go and everybody, where's Greg at? And they don't know. And I just go to the movies and see a bad movie and just hang out by myself or something.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Well, Nick's good with that too, because he tries very hard to make sure that we have a date night every week.
And Dana's going to be mad now.
No, it's not easy though. It's not easy. And I mean, we're lucky that we have, teenagers and little kids. We don't have one as young as Sydney. So it's nice to be able to just go out for even a few hours to see a movie.
Well, we do. We have both of our parents will take Sydney.
Right.
And so they love it. But the problem is that a lot of times by the time I get home, I'm beat because I have trouble sleeping at night. And Dana, as you know, is sort of a night owl.
Right.
So it seems like there's not a whole lot of time when we're both up and engaged. And what I always ask her is, I'm like, babe, won't you come to work? And during the day, we can sneak around for a half hour, an hour, have lunch sometime, or do this or that. Because that's the time where I'm up and engaged. And the time that she's up and engaged is, 9, 10 o'clock when I'm ready for bed.
Right. Well, that's really where priorities come in. You have to prioritize based on what's important to you. It's too easy to get caught in what has to be done now, as opposed to really designing out your life and saying, this is what's important to me. You wouldn't have the business you had today if you hadn't worked toward it every day. You're not just going to accidentally run into having the kind of business that you have. So you have to have intentions about working toward that every day. And so it's easy. Like I said, I want to add value to people's lives. And so I have to do that with intention every day. But it's important to me, so I find the time for it.
Well, Anitra, thank you so much for being on the show with me today.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, and we'll talk again soon.
That's all for this episode of the Bust-Proof Business Podcast. Be sure to point your browser to bustproofworkshop.com to sign up for our mailing list and to get your opportunity to enroll in one of our specialized seminars, guaranteeing you continued results in typical bust-proof fashion. Thanks again for joining us. We look forward to taking your business to the next level right here on the Bust-Proof Business Podcast.